Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you're just tuning in, we just went over the NCAA House settlement a little bit, talking about how that might affect the future of college football. We also talked about Caleb Williams and the Bears sitting all their starters for the Hall of Fame game, the first NFL action that is going to be taking place on Thursday, just 2 days from now, as well as doing some trade deadline updates as the deadline for the MLB. The trade deadline for the MLB is just 24 minutes away. It is right around the corner. We are taking you live right up and through it, giving you all of the updates with every single trade that gets broken here in the next 23 minutes or so. But before we get into the Detroit Lions, their offseason, their schedule prediction, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to GSMCPodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, talking some sports with me here, on a very special trade deadline, July 30th. But like I was saying, we're going to finish off our show here with the Detroit Lions, continuing our series. We'll talk a little bit about them and the theme for the Lions this offseason, their offseason review, if you will, has been re-signing players. And I love that. We talked a little bit about the Buccaneers, who kind of did the same thing. They're taking care of their guys here in Detroit. Obviously, signing Jared Goff to a massive new extension. Signing Amon-Ra St. Brown to a massive new extension. Penei Sewell to a massive new extension. Tyler Decker to a massive new extension just a couple of days ago. That is 4 centerpieces of this Lions organization that they have now extended, taken care of before going out and, dealing with the rest of the team. Now, what they did with the rest of the team, I also love. Their defense was an issue. Now, it got a lot better down the stretch of the season, but for a large majority of the season there, the Lions defense excuse me. The Lions defense was bad. Just put it light. The Lions defense was bad. What they did to go and fix that is go and get some run defense help with maybe the best run stopping player in the NFL, DJ Reader, big boy from formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals, comes up and joins the Lions to stop any kind of run attack against them. The corner problem, they had some issues. They brought in Amik Robertson. They traded for Carlton Davis, who I love that trade for them. And in their draft, they hit that position hard, bringing in Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr. Both of those I had first-round grades on. They get Ennis Rakestraw in the second. Terrion Arnold was maybe my favorite corner in the entire draft, as well as fixing the pass rush outside of Aiden Hutchinson. Now they bring in Marcus Davenport, a little bit older veteran from the Saints over here. He comes in. This is a much better Lions defense just from adding them. I mean, going down their starting lineup, right? You've got, obviously, Aiden Hutchinson, DJ Reader now, Marcus Davenport, Jack Campbell, rookie from last year, in his linebacking core with Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes. The corners, it looks so much better than it did last season, right? You go from you go from just about nothing to Carlton Davis, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Terrion Arnold, Ennis Rakestraw, Amik Robertson. That is a great secondary all of a sudden. And they did all of this in one season, a season where they, even with a weaker defense, even with a weaker, secondary, they were able to make the NFC Championship game, be a big in the NFC Championship game. And if, a couple of plays might have bounced the other direction, they're in the Super Bowl last season. This is a Lions team that's really, really good. This is a Lions team that very much improved over their offseason. It might be my favorite offseason out of every single offseason in the NFL. I know that's a lot to say, but this is a really, really good Lions team. Obviously, the big question was Jared Goff, and that might have been the one mistake that they made, in my opinion. Extending all those other guys, bringing in everyone else that they brought in, yeah, fine. I like it. I love it for some of these. But at the same time, Jared Goff is a quarterback you're now paying over $50 million. And, he's up there. He's making $53 million a year, the fourth, I guess, fifth, sixth highest paid quarter. I guess there's been so many quarterback contracts this season. Behind all three guys making 55, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love now, Joe Burrow, as well as Tua, surpassing him by $0.1 million per year. He's the fifth highest paid quarterback in the league right now. That's a little bit of an overpay for Jared Goff. Now, I understand this contract is starting to look better already, which is kind of crazy. But Jared Goff, we've seen when the offensive line falls apart, which I'm not saying this offensive line is falling apart. It was one of the best in football last year, and they did a great job keeping it together. Obviously, Penei Sewell, they give that big contract to. Taylor Decker, they give that big contract to. Both of their tackles are locked up. Center Frank Ragnow is insane, paired with two great guards in Kevin Zeitler and Graham Glasgow. That is a star-studded offensive line, as much as a star-studded offensive line can be. So there's not a lot of reason in this current structure that the Lions should be worried about Jared Goff, but I do get worried a couple years from now when this roster gets too expensive to keep up that interior line play, if Jared Goff will be able to be the same. Because, especially those interior guys, they're getting older. Their contracts are starting to run thin. You've got a smaller Super Bowl window than you might think. Super Bowl windows are always smaller than you think, and especially in the state the NFC is in right now, you have to take advantage of it. You have to take advantage of it. Real quick, before we continue, we have another trade breaking in the MLB. Jeff Passan reporting the Baltimore Orioles busy as well. They've had a pretty good trade deadline. They're finalizing a deal to acquire Chicago White Sox outfielder Eloy Jimenez. This is interesting. It's not the big name outfielder in Luis Robert, but, Eloy Jimenez, when he's healthy, was really good just a couple of seasons ago. And Baltimore's bats have been struggling recently. Not enough to really be a big cause of concern, but something it's a nice little addition, a nice little bench bat to add for the O's. Maybe he can come in and slot on off day for Anthony Santander or Cedric Mullins or something. He can come in and be an off day player, come in and play DH as well for them. This is a good move for the Orioles. I like what they've done as well. The Phillies, the Orioles, and the Marlins have all been really good this trade deadline, I think. But getting back to the Detroit Lions here. Excuse me. The Detroit Lions, again, I really, really like their offseason. They've hit every need that they needed to. Their draft was really good, getting those corners, Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw Jr. If they can stay healthy again, that's how all of these predictions are. If they can stay healthy, right? That's what we're running off of. This team is going to be great. This is a team that, and we'll do a whole record prediction coming up next, actually. But this is a team that is Super Bowl contenders. This is a team that has Super Bowl, Super Bowl aspirations. The goal of this team is a Super Bowl. Amon-Ra St. Brown said that himself. Vegas has set the line for their wins at 10.5. I will tell you what I have them at, and we'll break down every single game. You tell me what you agree with and what you don't. That's coming up next, as well as any other updates as the MLB trade deadline ends in just 14 minutes. We'll take you up and through it. So stick around for that. We'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you're just tuning in, we just went over the Detroit Lions offseason, as well as giving you some more breaking news as the MLB trade deadline is just 12 minutes away. Any other moves have to come in quickly. We'll keep you updated on that. But I gave the Detroit Lions an A. I forgot if I said it or not. I given them an A for their offseason. I love what they did. They upgraded at every position of need, and this was a team that was this close to the Super Bowl last year. So we'll talk a little bit about their schedule, but before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the team of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to GSMCPodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to add, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate all of you guys for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. But like I was saying, we are doing the Detroit Lions schedule today, giving them a record going game by game. Vegas has the Detroit Lions win total currently set at 10.5. And this is not a super hard schedule either, right? They have a couple of tough games in there. You know, they have to play the 49ers near the end of the season. They have to play the Packers twice. They have to play the Cowboys, the Texans, but they have to play the Bills. But outside of just a couple of games, this is a schedule that I could see them absolutely dominating. And that starts off early. They've got a nice little stretch here against the Rams, Bucks, Cardinals, and Seahawks to start off the season before having an early bye, a week 5 bye. And that could potentially hurt them down the stretch in case, they get in any kind of division races, they get in any kind of seeding race with a team that might have a later bye. They just might run out of steam down the road. But the Lions come out. I love this Lions team. They have a lot of chemistry, continuity. They start off hot, winning their first 4 games through the bye, beating the Rams, the Bucks, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. I think the Rams might make it a contest, but especially week 1, I just like the continuity with the Lions a little better. Obviously, this is a revenge game for the Rams. This was a matchup of the wild card playoff round last year. So we'll see if they come out with a little extra tenacity, the Rams do. But I'm taking the Lions to sweep the first 4 games. Start off 4-0. Start off hot. Why don't you? Best team in the league. Best record you can possibly have. First 4 games, 4-0. Take a bye week as you prepare for the Cowboys in Jerry World. A tough contest. Obviously, they had that heartbreaking loss last season where they went for 2-3 times. One of them counted, but there was an odd penalty called. I have the Lions taking their revenge here against a Cowboys unit that might have gotten a little better defensively, but offensively, I think they are a lot more diminished. So I'm taking this Lions team to start 5-0. 5-0 for the Lions. Kind of shocking there. Then they take on the division rival, the Vikings. That is up in Minnesota. I'm going to give the Lions a loss here. They've been riding high. 5 straight wins. The wheels are going to fall off a couple of times, obviously, and I think the Vikings will take 1 game from them early in this season. It's not the end of the world, though. Obviously, the Lions are 5-1 after 7 weeks. Then Tennessee. They have Tennessee come into them in Detroit, and the Titans are not the same level as a lot of these other teams that they're playing. I'm giving this win to the Lions. Halfway through the season here, after 8 weeks, the Lions are just 6-1 with that bye week. They are cruising through the NFC right now, but this is where the schedule gets a little harder. The last half of the season, you get the Packers, Texans, Jaguars, Colts, Bears, Packers, Bills, Bears, Niners, Vikings. So you're getting you're getting a bunch of playoff teams from last year, a whole bunch of games against previous playoff teams, 5 of them in their last 9. And, the Jaguars are right there. The Bears are much improved. This is a very hard stretch of schedule down the line. But starts off against the Packers. That is in Lambeau. I'm going to give the Packers the win here. In Lambeau, they just signed Jordan Love to a big contract. They've got playoff aspirations. I'm giving the Packers a win here. Then they traveled down to Houston, a tough game against C.J. Stroud and the Texans. I think the Texans will pull this one out. They drop 2 in a row, the Lions do, fall to 6-3 after 10 weeks. In Week 11, they get back, welcome the Jaguars home after a little bit of a road stretch there. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars aren't enough, and the Lions take care of business in one of the classic cat games. They're improving their record to 7-3 through 11 weeks. The Colts in Week 12. Now, I know we just gave them a win against the Jaguars, and I don't think the Colts are as good, but the Colts are a scrappy team and are good for a surprise win out of nowhere basically once a year. So I'm giving the Colts this win. Not to say that the Colts are that bad, but I do think that this is a Colts team that can surprise some people. So I'm giving the Colts a win here against the Lions. Next week, they got a little bit of a homestand here. 3 straight home games. They enter Week 13, only losing 4 games so far on the season. So, through 12 weeks, they're 7-4. A pretty good position to be in. They've kind of slowed down as of recent, but take on the Bears. That's going to be a win. We talked about Caleb Williams and the Bears. I like what they did this offseason. It's not enough for me. I'm going to keep the Bears down here. The Lions get a win there. Then they get revenge against the Packers. After 14 weeks, the Packers come to Detroit. The Packers take care of business there. That was just the White Sox there. But the Packers lose a game to the Lions here. And now the Lions, after Week 14, are kind of cruising. After 14 weeks, they're 9-4. It's not the easiest schedule down the stretch. The last 4 games, 9-4, need to basically go undefeated to secure that 1 seed. Now, it's not impossible for them to secure the 1 seed, but the Niners, who I had winning 13 games, are one game better than them at this point in the season. Now, they do have a big game with the Lions later. The Niners do. So that is that's something that's a big game to circle. And real quick before we finish it, we have some breaking news. Jack Flaherty is being sent to the Dodgers from the Tigers. That is huge. The Dodgers need more starting pitching. Jack Flaherty is one of the best starters that was out there on the market from the Tigers. He's had a really resurgent season this year. The Dodgers acquire a good one again. I bet you there was a pretty good return for him. Eric Fetty kind of return. A little better than that, maybe even. We'll have to see. I'll let you know if the return comes. Just 4 minutes to deadline time now, though. So we are on the clock. We might see a flurry of trades start to come in. But we're sitting here again. 4 weeks left in the season. The Lions sitting at 9-4. Bills are up next at home, finishing off their long homestand. 3 straight games at home. The Bills come into town. They've played a lot of games in Detroit. Obviously, last season they had to come in there a couple times when their stadium was snowed out. The Bills take care of business. I'm gonna give Josh Allen and the Bills a win here. They fall to 9-5. 3 more games to go. They bounce back on the road against the Bears in Chicago. I think they're just a better team than the Bears, really. 10-5, and then the big game with the 49ers. Currently, the Lions are 10-5, if my model is 100% accurate, which, yeah, of course it's 100% accurate, right? And at this point, heading into Week 17, the 49ers are 12-3. So, if the Niners lose out, the Lions win out, especially with this tiebreaker, they get that 1 seed. These are very important games, and I'm giving this game to the Lions here. I think the Lions will be able to pull out a big game against the Niners, and then it comes down to Week 18 against the Vikings and Week 18 against the Cardinals for the Niners. Both of these teams will be trying. The winner of this game, if the Lions win and the Niners lose, they get the 1 seed and the bye. If the Niners win, they get the bye. These games will probably be played together, if I had to guess, so neither team could rest their starters. I think both of these teams win. I have the Lions finishing with a record of 12-5, getting the 2nd seed in the NFC for the 2nd year in a row, looking to oust the reigning NFC champions, the San Francisco 49ers. This is going to be a really fun season for the Lions fans. I really love what they did. It's gonna be fun. It's always good when it's good when the Lions are good, right? They finally get to be good. It's always exciting. But I'm giving the Lions a 12-5 season this year. Let me know what you think. Before we sign off, though, we just had another trade. I'll take you through the deadline here. The Dodgers are also acquiring center fielder Kevin Kiermaier from the Blue Jays. Again, more bats out there for them. Kevin Kiermaier is one of the best defenders in the league, or at least he was. He has that kind of range. If they can play him out there in center with their bats that honestly have been struggling a little bit, this is a good trade. I also really like what the Dodgers have done. Just 1 minute left on the trade deadline. We'll see if we get one more here. We'll wait on that, but thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to this very special trade deadline episode of Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I have been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Come back tomorrow. We'll do winners and losers of the deadline. I'll have a full breakdown of every single one. You've had a little bit of my thoughts here today. You can kind of guess what some of my winners might be, but we'll talk about that and all of that and more, as well as another NFC North team, probably the Packers tomorrow. But if you would prefer the Bears, go ahead and let me know right now, and I can go ahead and plan for that. But we have officially hit the MLB trade deadline. No more new trades. That is it. That is final. The White Sox hold on to both Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert. Interesting. That is a really, really interesting move by the White Sox. We'll talk about all of that and more tomorrow. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you same time, same place with some more trade with trade deadline winners and losers tomorrow. You all have a good one. I will see you then. Bye-bye. Let's go. I'm gonna feel like it's gonna be a bad day.